Good afternoon. This is Ralph Sayas. This is the presentation that we need to do for the small project for the course with Dr. Kim. Um, this is CPSC 6119 object components. So this is the small project. And here's the outline that I'll follow for this presentation. I'll explain the project structure, file path properties, and I'll show the class diagram, configuration files, how to launch the main class, add clients, search clients, delete clients, undelete clients, add movies, and go through the requirements that are specific in the document for this assignment. So the first one, the project structure, I created my project. That means I created packages to signify the classes that will go within them. For example, I created a controller package that has all of my controllers. I created a model package that has all my models. Observer package that has all my observers, and repositories, all my repositories. And the view, it has the 3 views. I take care of the first item, project structure. I'll explain now the file path.properties. It's a file that is here in the default package that I created. And this is just so that we can do one of the requirements of the project, which was to change the location of the file where we're going to store the information for the clients, the movies, the rental info. This rent ID sequence is one file that I added to keep track of the increment IDs after a movie is rented. So this file will contain the next consecutive ID that we can assign to a rental transaction record. So we got this this 4 things. This is a property file. So this is the property that we'll access in the code to be able to locate clients.txt and so on and so forth for the other files. So here you can see that it just has the name of the file. So it's going to create them as startup in the project root where this project is located on my hard drive. But if one wanted to create them somewhere else, they can specify a path here instead of just the default project location. So that takes care of the second item, file path.properties. Now I'll show the class diagram. So here it is. It's following the MVC design pattern. So here we have the client controller interface that is implemented in the client controller class. Same thing for client model interface is implemented in the client model class. And then we have a client repo interface, which is implemented in the client text file repo. This is where we're going to access the actual information to the file. And this is good because if we wanted to swap a database, to actually change the implementation, we just need to create a separate class. Maybe if we're starting a SQL Server, create another SQL Server file, SQL Server repo and inherit from client repo interface, and the rest should be the same. Here we have the client controller, which is composed of, or it has a client view. So the client controller takes care of creating and calling the view. And that's one of the guidelines in the MVC model. And the client model here, it has a client report interface so that we can, from the model, we can access our database. And the client model has a client model view too. So this is class diagram for the clients. There's the movies one, it's the same as this one. So, I didn't create one since it's really the same things, except instead of client, it's really movies. And I specify that here. And the same thing for the rent movies. It's the same design, but instead of client, it has rent movies. That takes care of the class diagram. Now we'll explain the configuration files. So I started explaining them. These are the configuration files. When we start the application, if the files are not there already, it's going to create them. And it's going to create them right in this folder. This is where my project is: C Code, Java, MVC, Small Projects, IS. So when I launch the application in a minute, it's going to create those files in here because they don't exist. The only one that I have here that exists, which I can also delete. We don't need this one for now until we actually do a transaction. And I'll go ahead and I'll delete that just so I can show that it will get recreated too. So right now we don't have any databases or any text files which are acting like a database. So that's really the configuration. Once I launch the main class and I access part of the applications where they need those files, it's going to create. So that takes care of the fourth step, the configuration files. Now we're launch the main class. So the main class is located here under the MVC small project _ IS. I'll right-click it, run it, and so here's the main menu. If I go back here, I shouldn't see anything yet because I haven't accessed the options of the application. But if I go here to manage clients, I don't think I should still see it. Okay, yeah. So the clients one got created, but it just has the columns, right? We're going to store information, but there's not any data yet from the clients. So we'll go ahead and create a couple of clients here. So we're going to do one. I'll create my name to start things off. So I don't want to delete that. Create. So 2, I'll create another one. Smith John. I'll create a third one that's going to simulate our delete. I'll call it delete me. Some name. I'll create it first. So here we can see that we created 3 files. Sorry, 3 clients. If we go here to the clients database, we see that they are stored properly. Okay. Now, if we say that some client doesn't want to be a client anymore and we want to delete them, we check this here, specify the client ID, which in this case is the one that we want to delete, which is the client ID 3, and we say delete client. You see that the view here automatically got updated to delete it, and we're sorting here by active clients, which are the ones that have a 0, and deleted at the end. So if we go back to the client's file, we see that the third one got deleted. It's marked it. It's not a physical delete, but a logical one. So, so we marked it as such. And there's a 1 there. Let's say that we change our minds and the deleted one wants to come back. So we uncheck that, and we put the 3 again, and we say delete client, and the client is back, and it should reflect it here. Okay. But since we wanted to test the delete, we're going to leave that one deleted. So we're going to hit it again and delete, just so to make sure that it's working. Delete it. Okay, so that takes care of the clients. And here, let me see what else. So we can search for clients. So now we just added clients. So if we want to search for clients, let's say that we want to search for Smith John. So we can say Smith, comma, John. So this is part of the extra credit feature. So we put the, we don't need the client ID. So we can put the Smith John there and we'll search for it. Found the client. And you notice that it populated the name there too, the client ID, and it's showing up further requirements of the assignment. That takes care of the search. We explained delete clients and undelete clients already, so that takes care of all the features for the client. We'll get out of here. We'll go back to the main screen here. Now we're going to do the movies. So we'll manage movies. Once we launch movies, you notice that the movies file wasn't created until now. So now we got created with nothing, just the headers or the columns. So we'll go ahead and create some movies. Back to the Future, one of my favorite movies. We'll create E.T., the classic. We'll create, I don't know, Ghostbusters, kind of oldie but goodie. And let's create another one. I don't know. I Love Lucy. I don't know if that's a movie, but this is just for test purposes. Love Lucy. So we created the movies here. If we go to the movies file, we can see all the movies here. And the rented set to 0, meaning that they haven't been rented. So we got those here. We can get out of here. We got the movies and the clients. So that takes care of the movies and clients. Now we'll go through some of the requirements in the document. So we're going to manage now the rental process. So we're going to rent and return some movies. So we'll come here and manage movie rentals and rent movies. Okay, so the first tab here has the rent a movie. And you notice that it has all the clients that are active, meaning not deleted ones. So the one that we deleted, even though it's in the database, it's not showing up here because it's deleted. And we only wanted to show the ones that you actually rent a movie. Here it has the list of the movies that we can rent. So we're gonna actually just go through the restrictions here. So we created a client, we deleted a client, search the client, and we show all the clients. And we created a movie. Now we're gonna rent one. So we're gonna pick the client, we're gonna pick myself here. Actually, I think one of the requirements is that has to, if they try to search, if the client tries to rent a fourth, yeah, okay, yeah, we're good. We have 4 movies. So we're gonna do all the ones with Back to the Future, right? So I'm gonna run Back to the Future, rent it. So it completed the transaction. If I go to the rental info, so you see that's storing the rental ID, the client ID, which is 1, movie ID is 1, and the date 4/18, which is today. And the run ID sequence that incremented. So that's the one that I just created to 1. So that takes care of renting a movie. Let me see how we can do this. We're gonna rent more movies just so that we can try some of the other features. So Here, if we go to show current rented movies, it has the one that we just rented. And this has the historical. So that's the one that we just rented out. So we're going to rent all the movies, actually 3 movies, and then the 4th one, then it should give me an error for the requirements that a client can only rent 3 movies at a time. So, so I'm going to rent ET now. So I'm going to show it here. So 2nd transaction. And it's showing up here in the current rented movies and the historical. So we're going to rent now Ghostbusters. Rented. Showing up there. It's showing as the current, those rented movies. And that's the history. Now, if I try to rent the 4th one, it shouldn't let me, because that's a requirement that only 3 movies at a time can be checked out by a client. So if I try to rent Love Lucy, that's the error. Client is unable to rent because there's a max of 3. And we'll make sure that that's still true. It didn't record anything. There's only 3 here in the rental info. And here we only have 3. So that takes care of that requirement. Now we're going to return a movie. So if we go here, let's say that we want to return Back to the Future. So we're going to return it. Completed the transaction. If we go here to the movies, now Ghostbusters was returned, so it's set to 1. And the other ones are set to 0. Well, these 2 are still set to 0 because I rented ET. It wasn't rented. Or no, sorry, actually ET. I'm sorry, ET and Ghostbusters, they're rented. Right. So I return. So the current rented movies are ET and Ghostbusters. So those 2 are rented. So if we go here, there's still have a 1. Okay. And I return Back to the Future and it's set to 0. And the rental info, so it included now the day of the return for the movie. And the other 2 have not been returned yet. And the history shows that the 3 movies that have been rented so far. Okay. So I think that takes care of that. Let me see. I rented a movie, I returned it. Show all movies, showing current rented movies first. Rented movies first. So the rented movies. Okay, if I go back, I can see the ones that were rented here. But if I go back to movies here, this will show that requirement. So this shows the rented movies first, and then the non-rented ones. So 1 means rented. Okay, so that takes care of showing current rented movies first. And show current rented movies is well, in this view, you can also see it. Those 2 are rented, but specifically we created this view here to show the current rented movies in this format. That's a rental ID, client ID, movie ID, and movie title. So that is ET and Ghostbusters are the current rented movies. And to show who has historically rented a particular movie, sorting in the certain order by date of rental. That also is showing up here in the history tab. So if you see that takes care of that view. Now let's say, just so that we can see that they rented, let's close this out so that we can see how the sorting was working. So if we say that the rental info, that this happened on 4/17, or let's say just 4/16, and that maybe returned yesterday. Oops. Yeah, just so that we can see the sorting. So if we launch the application again, and if we see the historical, you notice here that that is showing they rented from the latest rental date, 4/18, and Back to the Future. We just we just change that there on the fly just to see the sorting part, and it's actually sorting by date in descending, right? So from the highest date to the lowest date, which is part of this requirement, sorting in descending order by date of rental. Okay, and that's what we see here, descending order of a rental. That takes care of that. So let me see what else. We tested out the client can rent 3 movies at a time. It shows a message when it tries to do a 4th one. And the current rental business keeps only 1 copy of a movie. If the user tries to rent a movie that is currently rented, the system still that the movie is not available. So let's do that one. I didn't show that one. So if we want to rent, here are the current rent movies, E.T. and Ghostbusters. So if we want to, let's pick John now. If we want to rent Ghostbusters, but that's already rented to Silence Ralph, if we want to rent it again, it shouldn't let me because there's only 1 copy. Movie not available, please select a different movie. Okay. So that takes care of this requirement, that the user will, if it's trying to rent a movie that is currently rented, the system will tell that the movie is not available. Okay. So I think we cover all the functionalities. This is, if you take a look at the summary document that I'm going to submit with the assignment, this has some of the things that I went through in this presentation, some example of the files, and the layout of the project, some hints to test, with screenshots of the screens, the functionality, and that should be it. I think they should take care of this presentation. If there's any questions, feel free to send me an email. This concludes this presentation. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Thanks. Bye.